Hey guys, welcome back to the Halloween special episode of Slipping Out. In this one we're going to be taking a look for hidden secrets in the awesome Luigi's Mansion. And it's got to be said, I had a lot of fun making this episode, as this game really is good fun to play. If you have a copy, now's the time to get back on it with Halloween just around the corner. So let's start with the opening scene where Luigi's walking up to the mansion.
Hello?
The first thing I wanted to give you guys an idea of is the surroundings of the mansion, by going way back, even beyond the Skybox. During this opening scene, Luigi takes a look at a map. Now, if we move the camera slightly back, we find that Luigi at this point has no body to go to the mansion with. Oh, forgive me guys, scary stuff. If we keep the camera on the outside of the door at this point when Luigi comes to open it, we can see that the wall texture is behind the door, but from the normal camera side, this texture is see-through.
Hello?
We are in the mansion, and what I've found interesting about this game is how to me it almost feels like I'm watching a stage show at the theatre, but the player is the director of the action. Of course, most of the time we're looking into the front of the rooms through the walls, but if we take a look we can see how the developers added this wooden texture to the edges of the rooms, even though you can't always see it, which to me gives it that stage show feel. So we meet our first ghost, who's luckily kinda friendly and leaves us a key to enter the parlour room, but before we enter I couldn't help but notice how the carpet changes for a more detailed carpet for the close-up of the key, something that you probably wouldn't even notice when playing the game normally, but it's pretty cool to see how it's done. Alright, so we enter the parlour room and we're greeted to a little animation of Professor E-Gad attempting to vacuum up a ghost. Try to keep your eye on Luigi and his positioning to see how this scene works. Where will you go, Luigi? Well, before we go anywhere, let's take a quick look around the Gad cave. Some things which I think we don't normally see would be another monitor, and there is another door just to the right with the sign Training Room written on it. Also, looking at the top of the cave, we see a ladder that extends way higher than the normal camera position would allow us to see. As we leave the cave, in the very short time that Luigi is off camera and the professor is waving goodbye, we can find that Luigi's torch is actually ahead of Luigi down the path towards the mansion. Then in the next shot, Luigi catches up to the torch. The first boss we come to is Baby Chauncey, and I wanted to see where the flying rocking horses come from and disappear to, so let's take a quick look at how this happens. Any of you guys out there who have played this game will know one of the main goals is of course to capture ghosts and then turn them back into pictures for Professor Egad's collection. But how does he do this? Well, the ghosts go through this contraption, and in the last section of the machine, if we just rewind here, we can find this happens. One of the more interesting rooms I wanted to take a closer look at was the box room. Now this room is one of the only rooms which has a false wall, and by clicking the button we can see in the mirror, we see the wall move. However, this extra part to the room is always there even though we can't see it normally. Now, during this game, I will be quite honest, there wasn't a lot to find outside the rooms. In fact, unless I miss one, all of them are just surrounded in darkness. That is except, however, for the box room, which left me quite puzzled because, as you can see in the darkness outside the room, we can find this picture. Pretty cool to find this, but why is it here? Well, the picture can normally be found in the music room, but if we take a look at the map, the music room is quite away from the box room and is also set further back. So why this picture can be found outside the box room floating in the darkness, roughly where this circle would be, I have no idea. There is a couple of secret rooms that can be found in Luigi's Mansion, one of them being in the butler's room, but only by looking through the Game Boy Horror's camera and taking a shot of this mouse hole. But I thought it'd be kinda cool to take a look at how Luigi enters the room from some other angles.
Oh.
Lighting effects play a big part in the atmosphere of this game. Here's a good example of how the developers created the effect of the ghosts glowing by using a 2D texture inside of them. Pretty simple, but effective. Whilst in the outside sections of the game, using the Game Boy Horror camera, you can often see the moon and the clouds within the Skybox. However, what you may not know is, some of the interior rooms also have the moon and the clouds surrounding them. Just for that very reason of when using the Game Boy camera, you can sometimes see through the windows. So the developers decided to add the outside details and the Skybox to surround these particular interior rooms, rather than having solid textures floating outside the windows as we've seen in other games. One of my favourite rooms in the game, probably because it's so peaceful, was the observatory. But of course questions had to be answered, like what can we see if we take a look out through the window? Well, as you'd imagine, outside we can find the stars and the moon that appear after looking through the telescope, as well as the star Mario left behind. Once the room fades away, notice how it appears that the moon is quite a long way away. If we look from this side, it's actually not too far away at all. I also wanted to get a shot of the moon exploding, which was pretty difficult and took a number of attempts, but I got there eventually. Check it out. Alright guys, so probably the most famous mystery or myth surrounding Luigi's Mansion has to be the hanging Luigi shadow that appears in the telephone room. And this happens when Luigi answers one of the phones, and then at the same time lightning strikes outside. So let's just rewind, and here it is, the shadow in question. The problem is, it's at a bit of a funny angle to see, and we also have this text box in the way. So I decided to remove the text box and move the camera slightly to the right, meaning the shadow appears on the wall in front of Luigi. When I do, the result can be seen, and it's clearly just the shadow of Luigi on the phone. I am sorry to anyone out there that wanted this myth to be true, but it is simply a side effect of the way the shadows work with the camera. When we jump into the chimney to access the sealed room from the rooftop, I was curious to know where Luigi went or how far he fell down the chimney. It turns out it's not too far after all. Where does the mechanical Bowser fall from during the final fight? To find out, I had to go way up into the Skybox. In fact, so far up, the map underneath started to disappear. And from here we can see where he spawns in. On defeating King Boo, and yes, you are seeing that right, I managed to do it with one single piece of health remaining. We make our way back to collect the picture of Mario and take it to Professor Gad. And if you've watched the rest of the video, it may not surprise you to see Luigi has a separate, non-attached arm to pick up the picture off the wall. Last but not least, Mario's picture is put into the machine and reversed back into the good old chubby plumber we all love. But take a quick look at the way Mario appears and gets shot out of the machine. Now I don't know about you, but the first time I saw this when I was filming, I couldn't quite believe what I saw. Mario's head shrinks into his own body and then expands as he gets shot out. How crazy is that? However, that is it for this episode. I hope you all have a spooky but great Halloween, and as always, until next time, take care.
Hello?
For those of you who are still with me and noticed the video hadn't finished, here's a secret part of the game on the GameCube which can be accessed using action replay codes, and I'll leave the codes in the description if you want to check this out for yourselves. I believe this room or set of rooms would have been used for testing rooms. If you haven't seen these before, then here they are to feast your eyes over. Now that really is the end, so thank you for joining me. I'll be back soon, but until then, take care guys.